Hello, everyone. Hey. Hello. Oh, sorry. I'm not used to sharing a stage. Welcome, everyone, to our talk called A Use Case of the Freitag. The slides serve to help my memory as well as yours, so I will just look on the first slide what's going on there. So I'll first introduce ourselves. To my left is Jill Forcada. To my right is Timo Stollenwerk. And I am Kees Hink. I will just leave it at this. If you have any more questions about us, ask us afterwards. Yeah. About the Freitag. What is it? It's a printed newspaper. We have one example here. I will get one soon to pass around. It's a bit old school. The people of the Freitag are trying to do modern stuff with that. We'll come to that in a second. It's issued weekly, so it's not really a Zeitung, but it's a Wochenzeitung for those of you that speak German. And some of you, the guys of you that speak German, will know what der Freitag means, so you will also have an idea on which day it appears, which is Thursday, of course. We sell about, well, we print about 15,000 copies. We distribute them across all of Germany and to the main cities of Austria, I think. But mainly we're big in Berlin, Hamburg, the university cities. And we have about 40 employees. Some of them have small contracts because they are journalists and write for other journals as well. But about 30 of them are sitting in our Berlin office. This is just where we work. And the signature of the paper is, it's left-wing, it's liberal, it's probably, you would be the audience of der Freitag if you had spoken German. So we will take your addresses to get subscriptions later. We are trying, der Freitag, we are trying to marry the old business of printing a newspaper with the modern Web 2.0 thing. So we're trying to get people to engage in discussing about articles online. We use our website for that. Every article goes online on freitag.de. We have a web print integration, which means that everything that goes in the paper goes online. People can comment on it. We have actual content editors worrying about how to put things where on the website, because a page layout is different than a web layout, obviously. Just to get a few numbers, we have 31K editorial articles, so that's the people who we pay to write. The other articles that make up the 53K are our members, so just people who have a subscription or don't, and they just like to use our website as a means of conveying their opinion, because we are das Meinungsmedium, as you can see on the right. We have about 14,000 members. Not all of them are very active. We have about 1,000 people who have written articles, at least once. And we have about 15K visits daily, with 11K unique visitors. The team that built the website is your speakers. And the guy who's missing here is Christian Schneider, who has been active in the Plone community for quite a long time, and who is not here. He is minding the store, as they say. So I will pass the mic to Jill.
So, yeah. So, yeah, what a surprise. We use Agile Scrum. So we do 2 weeks, I mean, nothing new. We use 2 weeks of sprint. We do the planning. We have stakeholder meetings that decide prioritizations. We use Pivotal for that. Yep, Scrum and Pivotal. So we use Pivotal. We even try to make the stakeholders understand Pivotal, which is getting there. It's not there, but it's getting there. And we have everything on epics and stories and everything. So, yeah, it's our. They had a really hard time to get into the like 2 weeks and not having a deadline and whatnot, but it's getting there. And I'm passing that to someone.
Yeah, I will talk a bit about like the technical details. It was clear for us right from the beginning that we would use like most recent technology of Plone, which is like, yeah, the 3Ds, like diazo, dexterity, and deco. I mean, deco wasn't really there yet, so we didn't use that, but all our content types are dexterity types. We didn't use or rewrite something like plone.app content types, which is an AT content types replacement for in dexterity. Our content types are either folderish with a custom view, or the only really page-like content type is an article. You see in the main navigation that we have like different departments, different topics where all the articles are listed, like foreign policy, things like this. These are actually plone.app collections, the dexterity ones, the 2.0 ones, which we wrote, which were sponsored by der Freitag. The development was sponsored. We have like these nested collections in there to have like nested topics. As I said, we have like mainly articles and folders and comments. We use the behaviors quite extensively to implement functionality like metadata or the categorization of the articles or membership, which is the next slide that I will come to. We have every article on the Freitag page is actually located inside an author folder. So even the articles that are written by der Freitag itself or by the authors of der Freitag are in the der Freitag folder, and everybody can create a profile on the site and start to write articles. This is the example of one of these author folders. So what we have is basically a pretty usual in Plone deployments that we need folderish, contentish members, right? What usually is used in the Plone community is membrane, and there's also dexterity membrane, which allows you to use dexterity types as member objects. We actually decided against using membrane because it's like we have membrane and then there's dexterity membrane. We wrote our own, or we had our own approach. The reason why we took another approach was that we basically rewrote all the login and registration for our site in ZCC form, in Plone auto form. And we wanted to have like this dexterity user folder. So the only thing that we really had to do was writing some event handlers that sync the data between the ACL user and our dexterity type. I mean, some of the information about the user is only stored on the dexterity object because we only need it there, and some of the information is synced. So that was pretty easy, pretty straightforward, and it worked out quite well for us. Yeah.
I'll skip to the bullets quickly. So, I just was at the other talk about collective cover. We have a very specific case. All these news items or these articles are being imported from our print system, and in order to get some kind of recent looking front page, we import them into a folderish structure. The thing you see on top is the lead gallery, which is actually a folder in the site root, or a collection. Excuse me, that's a folder where they handpick articles, or actually links to articles to which they want to appear in there. They have the ability to override the picture and the short keyword that's below it, because the article in itself might be placed in another context for the front page here. And the same thing is true about these things below here. You see here, it says Kanzlerkandidaat Steinbrück. That's one theme, if you will. One of those things might contain several articles around that theme. And these are also handpicked and put into a folderish thingy. It feels clumsy, at least it feels like really old school and hierarchical and not so fancy like drag and drop as we just saw in collective cover, but it's pretty effective. In fact, to make it more easy, we added these small buttons here where you don't have to go into the folder and get the folder listings to see what's in there. There's a small button in here that says, okay, I don't want this thing in here, so I can click on this and it will take me immediately to the delete page. So these are small visual helpers for our content editors. This one is to hide this item, and we have the same buttons for the lead gallery thing on top. Yes, please. Super. That's it. So this is what one would see if one would click on the I want to manage this lead gallery thing. Then you get just the overview of what's in the lead gallery, and you have these buttons here to manage it. It's a little bit more friendly than the default Plone folder contents interface. And in fact, it looks nice, and looking nice was a very important requirement to our employer. So let's get back to that slide. So we have a folderish structure that contains the stuff on the front page. We have a link object which references contents. We built some custom views around it, etc., etc. Oh, and one thing I couldn't show you, but that we have, that Timo built, is the drag and drop, so they can reorder items in the lead gallery or in the themes, if you will, by just clicking and dragging them around, which they like. So this is another Timo slide.
Yeah, next topic is comments. As Kees already pointed out, we have like around 300 new comments every day. We have 3 full-time moderators for the comments and for everything that comes from the community. When I started to work for the Freitag as external contractor, I was quite happy when I saw this use case, because I originally wrote plone.app.discussion, the new discussion framework for Plone and Plone 4.1. So I was quite happy to have this as a use case to see how well plone.app.discussion works when we have like when we need a custom integration. And I'm quite happy with how it worked out. Our layer around plone.app.discussion, or what Plone gives you by default, is pretty thin actually. We have a custom workflow, which is quite complex because we have like functions like users are able to blame a comment, then moderators can either just ignore this or delete a comment, which is also a workflow state, which is important if you have a threaded comments, because you can't just, if you have a comment and you want to delete it and other people already replied, you usually don't want to reply everything, but only to say this do not show this comment. So for the blaming, and also we want to be able to edit comments. We needed some custom forms, naturally, because plone.app.discussion does not provide this functionality out of the box. So we have these in these overlays. So if you want to blame a comment, then this overlay will pop up, and you can type in why you think this comment is inappropriate, for instance. Yeah, I was like, after I finished that, I was thinking if the plone.app.discussion default workflow is really what we want, because plone.app.discussion has this upfront moderation. That means that if you add a comment, then it will say, okay, we will check that comment, and a moderator has to set it to public, this comment, and this is like the other way around. We do this afterwards, and we are able to like delete or hide comments.
So development. So not a surprise, we use Git. We love it. I do. They suffer it. So we use in conjoint integrated with Jenkins a couple of of commands to play with if you want to try. We use the typical model of a stable branch, a development branch, and future branches. Well, exactly not like that, but a bit more simple. But yeah, the future branches keeping integrating. Jenkins builds everything and reports back if tests fails or not, and everything. And yeah, it keeps the environment sane and the release process going. Migration.
Yeah, when I think when all three of us joined the project, the Freitag was already using Plone for quite a while. They hired an agency to do this, and what the agency was doing is storing all the data actually in a MySQL database, not storing anything in the ZODB. So they had major problems with scalability and everything. So we built this site in Plone 4.2 from the scratch, but we had to migrate the data. What you use these days for migration is transmogrifier. Everybody is using it. It's like a great tool. It worked out quite well for us. Yeah, here are some numbers about the about articles, block entries, members, and comments that we had in the old system. One of the problems was that we wanted to have like an incremental, a daily incremental migration, so we can start testing things. Our migration at the end took around like, was it 15 hours or something, or even more? I can't recall. Okay, it was like less than 24 hours, so we could run it on a daily basis. Our first idea was to have like incremental migration and only migrate the things that are new, which we had to stop because the comments were the main problem. Because like if you have threaded comments and every comment only knows about its parent, it's really hard to do this incremental. So we just stopped doing that, and we just said, okay, we'll do a daily migration. And we did this for, I don't know, for a couple of months, like, or maybe even for half a year, until we finally decide, okay, we'll go live and do this. We had a daily Jenkins job that did the migration, that triggered it, and tells us about if something went wrong. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it worked out quite well, even though we had like quite some content in there, and Plone, it takes some while until for Plone to create content. But the thing is that the migration took much more time than we anticipated up front. I mean, Jill already pointed out that we took an agile approach and that we rated the migration story, and it was like not double, not 3 times, it was like 10 times or something. So yeah, if you have to rate migration, then just not double it, make it 10 times or something. But that was not actually the fault of transmogrifier. It's really more about like, if the client says, okay, we want everything that hasn't been touched for in the last 5 years, just remove it. And then you have it like this for 2 months, and then they come along and say, oh, we're missing some content. Yeah, this was because like you told us to remove everything, and this is really hard to do, and then you have to adapt your migrations, and this is what takes most of the time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we run performance tests. We run into some. Yeah. Okay. Some performance issues and.
Yeah. So release process also quick. We do have just like Christian. I'm really happy to have heard his talk before. We do mostly what he says, so that's fine. So we have a set of dev test, which what we call dev test virtual machines with everything. This runs from Git, so every time we do a commit or set of commits, we push that to that development environment, and so everyone can staging environment, which runs exactly as the production environment, but it's reduced. And then we have the production environment, both runs with X and everything, which we have a script which does wonders, and I can show it to you later if you want. So, oh, that's the good ones. Hopefully you will never see that, even if it's funny. So we, as I said, we have everything in physical servers. We have 4 physical servers in production. And on top of them, we have a delivery virtual machine with nginx, haproxy, varnish. We have currently 10 workers. We are going to increment that in a while. Zio server, monitoring status. And that really helps a lot getting all the errors, because users always try the more random things that they can try it. And for making everything work, plone.app caching is wonderful. Thanks for who wrote it. But we find a couple of problems without solutions still, that no matter what you do, workers' memory usage keep growing until the server, the operating system kills it. So you have to make some kind of a script to restart it. And we actually use that with Monit, and a script that Timo wrote that just tries to make the instance come alive in haproxy when it's already actually on time, because as Christian Toine said before, the start type of an instance with that customization forum page that we have, it's really slow. It's like 4 or 5 minutes for the first time to really reply. So yeah, it's big. So yeah, and we have. That's what keeps everything really same production-wise. To use Fabric, we don't use Puppet as Christian was using. So we have nearly like 150. Everyone knows what's Fabric? Yeah, it's a set of scripts that you build yourself. It's a wrapper around SSH, if you will, that allows you to connect to a lot of specialized virtual machines that you tag in some way. So we have our live virtual machines or the worker virtual machines. We say, okay, run an upgrade, and it runs upgrade on all of them. So we have nearly like 150 tasks for that. So for example, we can from a bare hardware system, we can deploy everything in an hour or so, just firing 3 commands and entering the passwords. So that's really nice to have. To have a way to really consistently recreate what you have. And
I think I will skip the notifications as well. I sent a mail about this on the mailing list some time ago, but we'll talk about it later. Maybe in an open space session. So we'd like to evaluate our experience here. I mean, of course, we love Plone. You get a lot for free, and we also love the community, where if you have some kind of problem, probably someone else has the same problem. This is open source, and I think I speak for these guys as well when I say that we love it. What more could you want? Well, haben Sie eine Viertelstunde? And we have member profiles, which we had to completely overhaul. And this is not just our use case. This will happen a lot more. Everyone I know, almost everyone I know in Plone land has some kind of use case for this. Notifications, not via email, but on your screen. Hey, you have a new message, something like that. We're missing that. More about that maybe in open spaces. Memory usage, as Jill just said, is a problem on all our instances. We're currently, and this is more on a low-level admin level, we want a way to run long and intensive tasks asynchronously. There are options for that. We're going to work to examine them and try to figure out if we can make them more mainstream or at least document them better so it's easier for people to plug into. And replication of the ZODB. There are, of course, ways for that also. We have rel storage. It should be easier. This is just a very I want a pony list, but we hope that we can work on it and possibly contribute to solutions for these things, even if it's just in documentation and asking questions. So I will put up an Open Spaces talk for the notifications, and if you have any other questions about our talk, please ask them now, because we have... Shit. But we have a break, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have some time. Yes, Matt.
Out of interest, how did Freitag end up using plone? Did you guys come along and recommend it, or were they using it first? Or?
I think everybody heard that, so I won't have to repeat it. Yeah, Tom.
It was my fault. I was hired as a consultant 3 years back, and there was a way to go forward. So we had a very quickly working prototype, and the editors were actually quite happy with the interface. And then I left the project and just continued along. So
Yeah. So that's how it all started. Actually, you're apologizing. It's an interesting discussion. At which point will you say to a customer, this is not a plone job anymore? And I think they may have been very impressed with the speed with which you in that time had a first mock-up or something, or a first working website even. Yeah, and I do notice that there's a tendency in the company to want so many customizations that it actually slows down, and it actually goes against the framework a little bit. I think we all know that. And you have to be a really strong, what do you call it, hard-headed person, strong, someone with a very strong opinion to be able to guard a project like that and say, no, if we're going to do this, we will violate our own framework or something. And yeah, that's currently the thing we're working on as well. That's what we're talking about in the stakeholders meeting a lot of the time. So it's an ongoing process. It's interesting. Yeah.
It's also has something to do with experience.
Yeah.
I wrote a lot of discussion, and like writing a discussion framework from scratch is like a lot of work. So you just get that for free, for instance. And it's always like tempting to think like we could do that from scratch, and then we don't have to find a framework. But if you actually have to implement all these things that come with you, that's an awful amount of work.
Yeah.
well, and also while you're figuring out what you want, you still need something that does what you currently want to do.
Yeah.
So in retrospect, you probably could have written that Freitag as it is today, with something else, especially given the tools that we have now rather than 5 years ago. But there's some merit to having something working for almost 5 years. So that because the requirements always do meander back and forth. That's a given. So the path only becomes clear in retrospect. And I think plone is good in providing something along the way on every step, rather than building a whole new thing that will then be finished at some point.
And we tend to forget everything that plone just gives us for free, like something like workflows, like the discussion workflows that the internal workflow for the article. We just have that, it's rock solid and it works. So people tend to forget about that. But if you would like build it from scratch, you would have to build something like these workflows, right? I mean, if you use Persian, then maybe you could use something like similar, but you still have to build all these things, and it's really a lot of work. So I really think that plone was a really good fit for the Freitag for the use case, even though we now might run into things where our customizations go a bit away from what plone gives us. But so don't apologize.
Thank you.
Which version is it built plone 4? Is it plone 4?
Yes, it's part of 2. Yeah, it's the most recent one.
Actually, we started with the alpha version already.
Do you keep up with stable releases?
Yeah, try.
Try to.
Yes, you check
stuff, you check it for free, and you have a couple of paid tests as well. So.
Another one for me. You said you have an automated, scheduled process doing imports every night. Is that right?
That was during migration.
During migration.
That was because we wanted to be experimenting on a recently migrated database.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I wish I'd thought of that project I'm working on now, because we're now hitting the problems later on. It would have been nice to have problems earlier on. Did you, when you were doing that, did you do anything in particular with regards to plone and/or transmogrifier in terms of optimizing how quickly it loaded that? So I imagine.
No, that wasn't a problem at all. I mean, the way transmogrifier does it with generators is really efficient in respect to memory usage and everything. And this is really rock solid. You can just use it and do the import, the export. The only thing that really takes time is really for plone to create all the objects.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Especially the workflows and everything, but this is not the fault of transmogrifier. Just takes some time. But yeah, as I said, with transmogrifier, we can really have it. It's really extremely, what you mentioned, is really extremely important for the client, that they can really have a look at the migrated data and really evaluate it carefully, because this also takes quite some time to really, I mean, we had like 30K articles